2018 365 Days of Granny Squares crochet along, where we bring you a new granny square once a day, every day, except for at the end of the month. Then we have our YouTube bonus and then our monthly bonus. You know, those are the only exceptions to the rule here. So today is number 55, and we are making the crochet V-stitch square. And this is what it looks like with the ugly yarn. It's not very flattering at all, obviously. That's why it has the ugly yarn name. Anyway, this is actually called Toy Chest, is the actual name of this colored yarn. Anyway, so this is what we're making today. So let's get started. Grab your yarn, grab your hook, and we're going to be making V-stitches, hence the name of the square. So you can chain 4, join into the first chain to make a circle or do a magic ring, and then you're going to chain 4, which will count as your first double crochet and a chain 1, or you can do a chainless double crochet and then chain 1, and that will count as your first double crochet as well. And now you're going to work double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1 until you have 8 double crochets and chain 1 spaces in your ring. And when I have 8 double crochets and chain 1 spaces in my ring, I will be back to show you how to do the remaining 5 rounds. Okay, round 2. Well, we're still on round 1 here. I've finished. I've got 8 double crochets with chain 1 spaces in between each. Now you're going to join with the slip stitch into your beginning stitch. If you chained 4, then you're going to join with the slip stitch into your 3rd chain of your chain 4. So join with the slip stitch there. Now slip stitch over to the next stitch into the chain 1 space and chain 4. That from here on out, and the entire pattern, in your chain 4, your first chain 4, will count as a double crochet into chain 1. If you're not chaining 4 and you're doing the chainless double crochet, do your chainless double crochet, chain 1. Now work another double crochet into the same space and chain 1. You just made a V-stitch. You're going to do it one more time, one more double crochet into the same space. Do not chain 1, okay? So you should have only 2 chain 1 spaces here. Now we're going to work into the next space a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the next space. And then in the next space you're going to do a V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That is your first V-stitch, chain 1, and add 1 more double crochet into that same space. In the next space, chain 1 space, you're going to work a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Next space, again V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet. So make your V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet. There's your first V-stitch, chain 1, and work 1 more double crochet into that same space. Into the next space, you're going to work a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. The next space, V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet. If I'm going too fast for you, please feel free in the upper right hand corner to hit the slow down button, pause, or rewind if you need. So 1 more double crochet in that space. And then in our final space, we're going to make a V-stitch, which is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now we're going to join into, if you did the chain 4, you will join with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain. If you did the chainless double, you're going to join with a slip stitch into the beginning of your stitch, which I just had and lost. Okay, there we go. Now slip stitch over to the chain 1 space. Round 3, chain 4 or chainless double crochet and a chain 1. Now you're going to double crochet into the same stitch, making your first V-stitch, and then in the next space, in the next double crochet, we're going to work a V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet into this stitch here. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into that double crochet stitch. And that's what we have. Now in the next space, you're going to, in the next 3 chain 1 spaces, we're going to work V-stitches. So as you see, this space is not a chain 1, so we won't work into it. Same with this one, we won't be working into that. We're working into the chain 1 spaces. So in the next space, right next to the double crochet we worked in, work a V-stitch. Find your next one, so you skip over the next 2 stitches there and you'll find your next chain 1, work a V-stitch in there. Okay, skip the next 2 because those are not, there is not a chain 1 space there, but this is, so work a V-stitch in it. Now you're going to work into the next double crochet, and you're going to work a V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the double crochet stitch. So there's 1 double crochet, 2 with another chain 1, and 3rd. Next chain 1 space, work a V, skip over these 2 because there's no chain there, but there is right here, so work a V-stitch into that space. And 1 more in the next chain 1 space, so skip over those 2. And in your double crochet right here, you're going to work your corner as a V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet. And then V-stitch in the next chain 1 space. Find the next chain 1 space right here, work another V-stitch, and then in the next space, again, 1 more V-stitch, then work your corner, V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet. So there's our V, and now our double. Now we're going to work 2 more V-stitches in the next 2 chain 1 spaces. So put V in your next one, skip over those 2 and work a V in the next. Join with a slip stitch into, if you did the chain 4, it'd be your 3rd chain. If you did the chainless double, join into the top of your chainless double. Slip stitch over to the next space, round 4, chain 4 or chainless double crochet with a chain 1, work 1 double crochet into the same space, in the next chain 1 space work a V-stitch, V-stitch in the next double crochet, now we're going to work V-stitches in all the chain 1 spaces across, so we should have 5 V-stitches worked across here in the chain 1 spaces. So the next chain 1 space is right after our double crochet that we just worked into. Work a V-stitch, find your next V-stitch, chain 1 space, and work a V-stitch into it. Next one, right here, work another V-stitch, and that's 3 V-stitches, so 2 more. Find your next chain 1 space, work another V-stitch into it. Here's your last chain 1 space, we'll work a V-stitch into it. Now we're going to work a V-stitch into the double crochet, the next double crochet after our chain 1 space that we just worked into, and we're going to put a V-stitch into it. And then we're going to work V-stitches in the next 5 chain 1 spaces. So the next one is right next door to the double crochet that we just worked into, V-stitch in the next chain 1, V-stitch in the next chain 1. Right now we have 3, so we need 2 more. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. If you need to rewind, hit rewind. If you need to slow it down, it's up in the upper right hand corner. If you need to pause it, please feel free. Those options are available. So you're going to now work 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to work 1 more V-stitch in the next chain 1 space, and then in the double crochet work a V-stitch, and then V-stitches in all the chain 1 spaces across, which should be 5, and work your corner, and I'll meet you when I'm done with my corner. Okay, so I've worked my last corner, and now we have 3 chain 1 spaces left, and we're going to work V-stitches into those last 3 chain 1 space, and then we will begin round 5. And V-stitch in that one, and V-stitch in the last one. If I'm going too fast for you, please hit the slow down option in the upper right hand corner. There's a toggle up there. So if you chain 4, join into your 3rd chain with a slip stitch. If you did your chainless, join into the top of that, and then you're going to slip stitch over to the first chain 1 space. You're going to chain 4 or chainless double with a chain 1 after, and then you're going to work 1 double crochet into the same space. In the next chain 1 space, we're going to work a V-stitch. In the next chain 1, in the next chain 1 space, we're going to work our corner, our V-stitch, chain 1 double crochet, chain 1 more double crochet into that same chain 1 space, and then we're going to work V-stitches in the next 5 chain 1 spaces. So skip over these 2 because here's our next chain 1, and work a V-stitch. Next one's here, work 1 there, that will make 2. Find the next one, V-stitch, find your next one, V-stitch. That should give us 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 more. Here's our next chain 1 space right here. Work a V-stitch into it. Okay, now we're going to, in our next chain 1 space, work our V-stitch chain 1 double crochet. All into the same space. There's the V, chain 1, and then a double crochet. Now we're going to work a V-stitch in the next 5 chain 1 spaces. So as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Work V-stitch. I will work this last side with you, and then I will wander off to go finish this round while you catch up. Remember, if you need to slow it down, pause, or rewind, all those options are available to you. Okay, so now we've got 3. We're going to work 4 and 5. 4 in this, or this is number 4, and then this is number 5. I don't want anybody to get confused working 4 double crochets or something. Because let me say, I would be that person who does that. I really would be. Okay, so there we go. And now we're going to work our corner in the next chain 1 space, which is a V-stitch, chain 1 double crochet. So work that, make your V-stitch, go into the same space, chain 1, and 1 more time, double crochet. I guess we should call it the W stitch. I wonder if it is called the W stitch, huh, y'all? It does look like a W. Okay, so now you're going to continue what we just did all the rest of the way around. Work V-stitches in the next 5 chain 1 spaces, and then in the 6th one you'll work your W stitch. I am naming it, if it isn't already called the W stitch, into that one. And I'll meet you when we get back to the beginning here. Okay, so I was just thinking as I was over here finishing up my side here, was if any of you watching do know what it's called, where you work 3 double crochets with 2 chain ones in between, if you know what that actual stitch term is, if you could leave it in the comments below, that would be really cool. If it is the W stitch, then I am awesome for thinking of it or guessing it, I guess. Anyway, leave it in the comments below. Okay, so I've worked my corner. I worked a V stitch in the first chain 1 space. There's 2 left here. We should have, by the time you finish your last corner, you should have 3 chain 1 spaces to work into, but I accidentally got a little bit too ahead of myself here. So let's go ahead and finish out the last here with V stitches in the chain 1 spaces. And then join with a slip stitch into, if you chained 4, your 3rd chain. If you did the chainless double, then you're going to slip stitch into the top. And then you're going to slip stitch over to the first chain 1 space, chain 4, or chainless double crochet with a chain 1. And now we're going to work a V stitch in the next 3 chain 1 spaces. So we're beginning our first one here. Here's 1. Next chain 1. There's 2. And then put a V stitch in the last chain 1 space. And now we're going to work a W stitch into the double crochet. Chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, work a V stitch into the next 7 chain 1 spaces. Y'all, I think I'm going to run out of yarn here. It's okay, I got more of it. So here's 1 V stitch. There's 2 V stitches. 3 V stitches, 4, 5 V stitches, 6, and 7. And then in the next double crochet, work your W stitch, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Work a V stitch in the next 7 chain 1 spaces, including the one right here next door to where we just worked our corner. And so I'm going to do this all the way around. You're going to do this too. If you need to rewind it to see, please feel free to do so. Basically, we're working V stitches in the 7 chain 1 spaces, and then when you get to your last chain 1 space right here for your corner, your 7th space, you're going to work your W stitch into the double crochet stitch, and then you're going to start all over working 1 V stitch in the next 7 chain 1 spaces. And make sure you're counting so you don't go over and your stuff goes all wonky, okay? So rewind it if you need to. I will get right back with you once I have completed this last round here. Alright, so I've worked my W stitch in my corner. We should now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 chain 1 spaces left to work our V stitches into. So let's go ahead and work 4 more V stitches. That was 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. And then join into the beginning. If you did the chain 4, it will be a chain 3, or you'll be joining into your chain 3. If you did the chainless, then you'll be joining into the top of that. Okay? excuse me, my yarn ended up yarn barfing everywhere. Like literally, I was trying to find the end, and this is what happened. It just kind of ended up me pulling it all out. Or I should say, it ended up the yarn threw up everywhere all over my desk here. So, thank you, Serenity Baby by Deborah Norville, for puking all over my desk here. So anyway, okay, definitely a square that's going to need to be blocked as usual. I encourage you to block all your squares. But anyway, this is the end product. This is what it looks like. It's very lovely, very pretty to look at. Not so pretty in the ugly yarn, but it definitely is in this one. So anyway, that was number 55, the crochet V-stitch square. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you are not in our crochet along yet, the link is in the description below to join us. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below in the comment section. And until next time, happy hooking, y'all.